Initial Thoughts is a spoiler-free movie review series. All opinions are my own.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Initial Thoughts, a series in which we talk about films as and when they're released. Today's film we're talking about is Scream 5, or the fifth entry in the Scream franchise, which is sort of a requel, which is what they describe it as in the film itself, whatever that means. And so it has the returning element of a lot of the characters. People like Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette return, but some of the new actors and actresses throughout it. You had Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Dylan Minnette, Jack Quaid, Jasmine Savoy Brown. There was a good lot of new characters and new actors in this as well. So let's talk about this film in general. But to talk about this film, I should talk about Scream, the franchise itself, first. And for myself, I like to give a bit of backstory on my experience with these franchises when I come into them. Usually I am coming into them late, as you can imagine, certainly with this one, considering it started in 1986. Scream is a franchise that I would not say I'm a fan of, but that makes it sound like I don't like it. I just don't really have any affinity to the Scream franchise. And prior to this, I had only seen two of them, so that shows how much I'm undedicated, if you could call it that. I've seen the original, the first one in 1986, and I have seen the fourth one that came out, was it 2011? Scream 4, or Scriform? You know, where they put the 4 instead of the A because it was 2011. Both of those films are... Well, the first film is a lot better than the fourth one, I can say that. And I would imagine, and I've heard a lot of people describe the first one as kind of like a jolt of life back into the horror franchise, because it was getting a bit stale with slashers and things like that, and you would certainly class these as slasher films, but it was kind of the self-awareness that kind of is in Scream 1. But that brings me on to Scream 5, or this film, or Scream, or could they not have just named it Scream 5? Make it a lot easier for me and anybody else talking about this film. Anyway, so for Scream 5, I mentioned this very recently, and I talked about this in my Matrix Resurrections review, which if you haven't seen that, definitely give that a watch after you finish this video if you get a chance. I talked about the meta-ness, and it's quite similar. They do run parallel in a certain way. Scream 5 and Matrix 4 are both a good bit after the original came out. You're talking this first film came out in 1996, the first Matrix came out in 1999. These films both came out, around the turn of 2021, 2022, and there is that level of meta-ness with a lot of returning characters, and there is the element of the films you see are parts of their own story. In the Matrix, as I believe is quite widely known because at the start of the film, is Keanu Reeves works on the game itself. He lived the Matrix and made it into a game, and now the world knows of the Matrix story. This happens in Scream. Scream, the story, and Sidney Prescott, who's played by Neve Campbell again, as mentioned, is famous as the survivor of Stab, which is Scream 1, or Stab 1, and then it goes on for all these other sequels. So it's hard to describe perfectly about meta-ness, if that's even a word, because I don't know that it is. But I found it in Matrix quite self-indulgent. It wasn't really using, the meta nature of what it was saying to further the story too much, I felt. Actually, they do it quite well in this film, and I should extend that just to the film itself. I have to say, when I first heard that there was going to be a new Scream film, I, like a lot of people, thought, oh, right, well, are we not done with this? And then you hear that the same three characters are coming back, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and you go, can we just let this, no pun intended, die? Can we just leave it? Then the trailer came out, and it's fine. You could tell, even from The phone call with Jenna Ortega's character at the very start, which is the start of this film, that's in the trailer, you can tell that it's nearly like an exact retelling of the first film, and a lot of the beats are the same, but there's also a lot new here. It's a very modern take, and a very I would say self-aware, but self-aware in a good way, because it treats the fans well. And it actually, there's a full monologue by Jasmine Savoy Brown's character in the middle part of the film when she kind of talks about just films in general. And obviously she describes Scream as stab, but the way she talks about that, and then she goes on to talk about Star Wars, or talk about Halloween, or Friday the 13th. There are all these massive franchises. It's quite smartly done, and I feel that was kind of the T-junction, if you will, of this film. It either goes left, and that was the film. If that conversation and that discussion by her and the rest of the characters in that room in that middle part of the film goes wrong, and they word it in such a way that it is self-indulgent and uppity of itself, that's where the film goes, no, this is not. Where it's very smart. It's quite a smart horror film. And don't get me wrong, the amount of horror references in here is on another level. The two main characters are called, their surname is Carpenter. I assume that's a reference to John Carpenter's The Thing. You know, Dylan Minnette's character is called Wes. I assume that's a tribute to Wes Craven. They drive along the street, and one of the streets is called Elm Street. Not to mention, you know, the posters, and they reference Psycho, and this is in a weird way. I don't know if I would go as far as saying it's a love letter to horror films, but there certainly is an element of love. There's an element of love, and you can tell by the filmmakers that there was a genuine attempt to, I don't know about reboot the franchise. I don't know that they make any further ones than this, and I don't know that they should. But as a kind of bookend, or a maybe epilogue on the Scream franchise, and maybe not just the Scream franchise, but kind of the horror, those slasher horror films of kind of the late 80s, or not, kind of all through the 90s films. I actually thought it was quite well done, and that goes for just basically all the film. I thought the performances were good to great by most people. I mean, the three returning characters, as I said, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, all three of them, I say, is probably their best performance in the series. Maybe not Neve Campbell. Neve Campbell in the first Scream would be her best, but I actually thought Courtney Cox and David Arquette were great in this. And I should definitely mention some of the newer actors and actresses. Melissa Barrera as kind of the main girl in this, kind of the Sidney Prescott of this generation. She was great. I thought she was great. Her sister Jenna Ortega, who I'd seen in, there was actually quite a lot of TV show actors in this. Jenna Ortega I had seen in You, the Netflix series. She was pretty good as her sister. Jack Quaid, who I'm a big fan of in The Boys, was really good in this too. Dylan Minnette, who you would probably know as Clay in 13 Reasons Why, I thought he played his role well. And some of the other ones that I didn't know of, I thought Jasmine Savoy Brown was great. I hadn't seen her before. Mikey Madison, I thought she was really good as well. And Mason Gooding, for what he was in it, was good too. So I am very surprised to be sitting here talking to you guys and saying I genuinely enjoyed Scream. Not to the point where it's unbelievable, it's the best film of the year or anything like that, but a genuine, I was going into this thinking we're talking like a 3 or 4 out of 10, absolute waste of my time. Not at all is that the case. And I suppose let's just get the rating time while we're on that tangent anyway. IMDb has gave it a pretty decent score there, as you can see. I'm right there with it. I'm not gonna go any higher than that, but I'm also not gonna go too far lower either. I think 7.5 out of 10 is a fair result for this. As I say, the performance was pretty good. The gore, and that's something before I end the video, I should definitely say about the gore, because I've talked about the characters and the story and things like that. The gore is, it's not dialed back, let's say. There is some quite brutal and gory moments, and that's why it has got its 18 rating here in the UK, and rightly so for some of the blood and guts moments. But yeah, I am very surprised, as I say, to be sitting here recommending that you would go and see Scream, but here we are. We're middle of January. I thought we were in for a good lot of stinkers here in January, I have to say. And while, you know, and I don't want to spoil my reviews for the other two films, but I haven't been blown away by Matrix or Kingsman. You can go and hear my full thoughts on them so far. But Scream was a pleasant surprise, and I would say if you get the time, definitely go to your local theatre or local cinema. Give this a watch. If you like horror, there is, to an extent, and this is something that I haven't talked a whole lot about horror films on the channel so far. There just hasn't really been that many scenarios to be talking about horror films. Maybe The Quiet Place last year was probably the only real example of a decent horror film. My big gripe, and I suppose this can go into another big tangent, I'm not going to get into this now, but my thing with horror films is the cliche jump scare thing, which I'm sure you know what I mean before I even say it, where it's the scene happens, then the music goes down, then the person looks away, looks back and jump scared, or if not, they look back, they look away, they look back again, and then it's really cliche. This is not a film that falls into that category, and that from the minute go was the reason that I genuinely did find enjoyment in Scream. So that's my review. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to this. I hope you get a chance to go and see Scream yourself, and you can let me know what you think if you enjoyed it or not. There's lots and lots of videos on the channel already. There's lots more to come in the coming months or so. The first 5 of the best is also on the channel. If you get a chance, that would be. I mean, I'm just going through everything I've brought out so far this year, but there's a good few films of the year so far, and then you've got the all of 2021 as well. And yeah, a like and subscribe, let me know you enjoyed, would be absolutely beautiful, and I will hopefully, as always, fingers crossed, see you in the next one. Bye guys. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Before you go, here are some of my other videos. For updates and information on upcoming videos, the best place to find this is my Twitter. Much love everyone.